chase them all away. Yeah, we chase them away. We chase them all away. I love to hate her, I hate to love her. I stand behind, I rise above her. Remember, we're all in it together, so don't let me down. Everything I do for you, so I'll be around. Yeah, I'll be around, yeah, I'll be around. So don't let me down, don't let me down. No, don't let me down.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me for another cognitive conversation. Today I actually have my brother John on the show, and he's graciously agreed to join me on the show to discuss health and nutrition. And the reason I asked him to come on the show for us today is he's actually taken nutrition and health a little bit further than me in some ways. We both transitioned from being pretty devout carnivores to a plant-based diet over a time. We both kind of jumped into it a little quicker than we should have, but John's girlfriend is actually gluten-free as well. So along with going totally plant-based, he's also gone gluten-free. So anybody who's tried to do that knows how much that restricts your diet and how it pretty much eliminates almost every single product on the store shelf for you. So that's why I decided to get John on here, because he's taken it further than me. And you know, in my opinion, if you can take something that's as prevalent in our society as diet and food and take that under control to the level that you guys have, you know, I think that you're a shining example for all of us. And honestly, I think that with how difficult that is, if you can do that in your life, it definitely helps you build the willpower to move towards taking control of other aspects in your life. So thanks a lot for coming on, John. How's it going?
Oh, good, man. Yeah, thanks for having me, for sure. Yeah, no, totally, man. It's definitely hard to not eat meat or eggs. Well, I mean, basically eggs and milk and all that good stuff, and wheat on top of it. I mean, it almost eliminates any chance of eating any public food.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? You might be able to get some French fries, but usually they fry all sorts of onion rings and stuff like that in there too, right? So
yeah, for sure.
but I mean, if you're looking to eat healthy out at a restaurant, you're probably not going to do too good of a job anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, just for a little bit of background for the people watching out there, like I said earlier, we used to love our meat. Like me and my brother here would frequently roast whole animals together. So
Yeah.
having a steak wasn't even enough for us. We had to do like the whole pig roast or
Oh yeah, pots of ribs to the point where your guts are destroyed for a day and a half after, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's funny too, right? Everybody knows how they feel after eating a large meal that's, you know, animal based, and you don't
Oh yeah.
feel good after. And, you know, that's definitely for a reason. I don't think it's, we're definitely not supposed to process that amount of
That quantity
yeah.
for sure, right? Like, you know, whatever, man. My drywall partner, he's like outdoorsman, so he's obviously into guns and into hunting and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like most people are if they're into that sort of thing. And you know, and I talk with him about that sort of thing a lot because I'm certainly not holier than thou. You know, I'll still talk to you about things. You know what I mean? But
Of course, yeah.
you know, and he's all like, you know, it's a little different to actually go out and, you know, stalk an animal and it has a fighting chance, because I don't know if you've been to the woods, but animals don't just let you see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
you know, I can respect something like that a little more. Not to say that it's for me, but you know, if our bodies can process that sort of thing, I think it would just be for survival, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been to the forest, but like strawberries are about this big, you know what I mean?
for
And
sure.
so, and they're few and far between sometimes. I'm not saying it couldn't be done. And I don't think we really need the calories that we get a lot of the time, depending on your lifestyle and stuff like that too. So I think it would be possible, but yeah, I mean, meat is practical in northern climates for sure, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I think it may have even been Mark Passio's last episode, or maybe the one before that. I can't recall. he had mentioned that it was very briefly mentioned, but it made a lot of sense. He had mentioned a theory that before the pole shift, the majority of humanity would have had fair access to abundant food supplies. And after the pole shift occurred for whatever reason, and the majority of land mass ended up being in the northern equator, obviously the majority of humanity kind of ended up in, north of the equator as well.
Yeah,
And due to the change of seasons and adding this really long winter, practically 6 months where you can't really produce any food at
for
all.
sure. Yeah.
People, kind of turned to eating flesh at that point. But he had mentioned that maybe even possibly before that, nobody would have even considered eating animal
Yeah,
flesh.
well, and
So.
it's like some apocalyptic scenario where people start eating people, right? You know what I mean? But
Yeah, apocalyptic. A lot of people don't know that even up into the early 1900s, they were butchering native people in North America and
yeah, that
exporting
makes
them
me
to
sick
England.
for sure.
Check it out. It's called long pork for those of you who haven't heard of it. And I'm not joking. They used to actually export human flesh in the early 1900s to Europe from North America. So yeah, a little tidbit of history there.
But yeah, I mean, and going back to what you were saying about there being more abundance too, I mean, there's theories that we used to be in a sort of like eternal spring type thing, you know what I mean? And I mean, we out here it was really, really hot early in the spring, and then June and July have been cool and rainy. And so we've kind of had a taste of two springs in a row. Like my strawberry plants flowered, produced strawberries, stopped producing strawberries, and now they've flowered and they're producing strawberries again. Like the rose bush had flowers on it, they all wilted and fell off, and now there's new roses coming in and stuff like this. And it's kind of like a cool little taste of what that might be like, if it was a sort of eternal spring, and that would make things a little easier. But
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we had a really weird spring as well. We had a drought for the first month. We had some great heat, and ever since then, it's been raining almost every day. And I've never seen this in Alberta in my life. Like it's raining today, rained
yeah,
yesterday. We've had a handful of dry days, but even on the really nice days, we'll still get just like a quick shower at night or something. So
yeah.
like the humidity level here is just through the roof.
Oh yeah,
Like
dude,
it's
getting
crazy.
you ready for some coastal life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little bit of a transitional weather adjustment for me, hopefully. So,
Oh yeah, totally,
yeah,
man. No, yeah, lots like that, man. But it's good though, right? I mean, keeps the forest fires down and stuff. I've noticed a difference this year over the last two for sure. The
yeah,
air was thick with smoke last year.
yeah. We had a little bit of that at the beginning of the season, and actually I think I heard that Fort McMurray has an air quality warning just the other day or whatever. But
Oh, crazy.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, getting back onto topic there.
Yeah.
y- how would you say that transitioning from a meat-based diet, an animal-based diet, into a plant-based diet has affected you, physically, and maybe even mentally and spiritually and stuff like that? Have you noticed any changes overall, or go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, for sure, man. I mean, well, there's the obvious changes at first when you just stop eating meat, you have to substitute it with something,
Yeah.
and if that's not anything that's not plant-based, then it's going to contain a large amount of fiber. And when you get a large amount of fiber in your body all at once, you tend to have some intestinal distress, to say the least. You
Yeah,
know what I
for
mean?
sure.
And accompanied with some gas, I'm sure, right? But so like that was like the most immediate, like, yeah, this is new. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so kind of trying to settle my guts, I started to explore other options, and
sure.
fermenting foods came into play because probiotics obviously are really good for you, and that was just a whole nother surge of gastrointestinal distress. but but no, the biggest thing, man, is just kind of you start to think about things a little differently, especially like nature and stuff like that, and you do. I feel a little more connected to the land around me. You know what I mean? You desire to learn what you could eat. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like there's in you don't really think there's too many vegetables and stuff like that at the grocery store, but if you really take a look, you can fill your cart with them. You know what I
For
mean? And
sure.
you don't have to get the same thing twice. You know, I'm eating hand over fist many different varieties of food than I used to. You know, and honestly, like everyone's number one concern when you stop eating meat is like, oh man, you think you're getting enough protein, or oh, you get enough iron? It's like, yeah, man, don't worry about my nutrition because I'm eating all the stuff you have on the side for your vitamins. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Not
Yeah.
to mention that, have a couple of different types of beans every day, or some tofu or whatever, and you get your protein for sure.
Yeah.
And then, some dark leafy greens will fill in a lot of the rest, right?
That's
And
right.
some nuts and seeds, obviously, but
Yeah, for sure. And as far as complete proteins go, like there's a lot of myth around tofu, but I recommend organic, non-GMO tofu. And there's myths about it containing estrogen and stuff like that. They're totally untrue. Um, and it's like it's a very complete protein. It has like 8 out of 9 amino acids or
oh
something like
wow,
that. Yeah, and
yeah.
then hemp seeds might even have 9, or they might be 8 as well. So hemp seeds and tofu are really good protein options for vegans.
Yeah,
Uh,
no doubt, man.
and the whole protein thing as well, like human beings need a lot less protein than most people are led to believe. And I think that the average person that eats a meat-based diet isn't getting nearly as much protein as they assume they are as well.
Yeah.
Like when you're pounding ground beef or whatever, or eating processed food that contains a small amount of meat in it,
Oh, totally.
you're not stacking up the protein either, right?
Oh,
So
dude, I used to work at a meat department in a grocery store, and we would grind ground beef with the cutoffs from the steaks and the roasts and stuff like that, because you trim off all the fat, and if there's any meat on that fat at all, you throw it in the grinder, and that's the market trim, and it was way leaner than like even the regular or the lean ground beef, right? Like the extra lean, maybe not, but
yeah,
yeah, so you're not even getting a lot of meat in your meat. And I was talking to a restaurant owner here that was saying they actually inject soy protein into the chicken and stuff like that, and that's that white ooze that you see coming out of the chicken breasts when you cook them on the barbecue or something like that. You see that
yeah,
white, oh, that's blood. It's like, no, it's soy protein, and they
yeah.
actually supplement a lot of the fucking protein in it with soy. And so people that eat meat think they don't eat soy. Oh, soy's bad for you or whatever, and they actually eat a whole bunch of soy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and trust me, they're not injecting the high quality organic non-GMO soy
No.
into that's like some sort of soy byproduct that's injectable into flesh, obviously, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah. How would you say that switching to like one thing we should put out there is that neither of us really transitioned properly. I pretty much just cut out all meat right away and kept eating a little bit of dairy, and I think you did pretty much the same thing, right? So
Yeah. Well, dude, when I first moved out here, like I was eating like cheeseburgers every day, and I'd get a milkshake and fries and like all like gluten and everything because I'm living with people that all eat gluten. So I mean, what am I gonna not eat it? And then it's still in the house, and Courtney's still affected because she has celiac disease, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, yeah, like it was a really quick transition over for us. And yeah, but is there a right way to stop doing something that I now view as immoral? You know what I mean? Like, I think cold turkey is probably good for most things,
yeah,
like, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like eating a meat free diet and animal byproduct free diet as well, obviously vegan. I'll say that because we still eat eggs. I go down to the farm around the corner, well, down the road here, and the chickens live happy and healthy lives, and they produce nice eggs, and I eat those, but I typically don't eat any eggs or
yeah,
anything
for sure.
like that. But yeah, like not eating the wheat is really tough, honestly. Mostly just the nostalgia of everything, right? Like I'd love to have a big old plate of spaghetti or and meatballs or whatever, right? But
Yeah,
yeah, like actually, man, I've been getting pretty good with the chickpea flour. It's a really awesome close substitute for a lot of things, like a cup of chickpea flour, a cup of water, a banana, and an egg. You throw a bit of baking powder and cinnamon, and there's pancakes. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
it's so easy, dude. Like, and it's so awesome. make cookies. You can follow any recipe, just add a little extra flour, and the cookies are bang on awesome. I mean, I don't use butter; I use coconut oil and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? But yeah, we actually ended up making this garlic bread type stuff. It's called saka.
Okay.
You're supposed to like heat a cast iron pan in your oven under the broiler, and then you pour the batter in, and it kind of like crisps up on the bottom, and then you put it in the broiler for like 8 minutes, and it's like a crispy little almost like pita or naan type stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I just used a glass dish, but it turned out really awesome, man. I'm learning some new stuff, And I mean, like, I don't know, man. Bread makes a great food handle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Exactly. An edible
yeah,
edible eating utensil.
yeah, for sure, man. And but you know what, man? Like, if you can find something that you like, and chickpea flour works great for me. I figure, oh, I'm not getting the protein I used to, is what I used to think. So chickpea flour is made from beans. You actually get a large portion of protein in your baked goods and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
if you are, trying to do something more demanding, like drywall every day or something like that, it's nice to have a little burst of energy, where otherwise it would just be carbohydrates.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, and you've been like hacking it up, man. Like you've hacked almost every dish. Every time I talk to you, you've got some new thing you've done with whatever plant-based alternative or gluten-free
yeah.
alternative. It's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to just cook the tastiest food that I felt, anyways, like the tastiest stuff I could. So like loads of cheeses and sour creams and really rich dishes like that.
Yeah.
And so mostly what I'm just doing is trying to replicate those flavors, and so I stopped using sour cream and I started using coconut milk, and obviously those things don't taste the same. Maybe sure you could pass it for like a coffee creamer or something like that without doing anything to it, right? But
Yeah.
you just got to think about what it tastes like. Well, sour cream is sour, it's tart, so you add a little bit of apple cider vinegar to it, and then some of that nutritional yeast really gives things a milky, cheesy kind of flow. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
my what are they? Scalloped potatoes now. They've progressed into, from just potatoes and onions and creams and whatnot. It's now like a layer of potatoes and pretty much anything that goes good creamy, some broccoli and some
Nice.
mushrooms and like all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff, pretty much whatever's in the fridge too. I mean, that's one of the most awesome things about cooking every meal is, dude, we have no food waste. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Well, yeah, let's bring that up as well. I know, like a lot of people don't even cook their own meals anymore, and that's the best way to really take control of your food intake is to cook everything yourself from scratch.
oh
And
yeah.
man, it's amazing. And like you said, you get to kind of do whatever you want at that point. So not only are you getting a healthier food, more high quality food, but it's exactly the way you like it, right? So.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, you're never sending anything back to the chef because it was you or
yeah,
your wife or whatever.
Yeah, even if you find a hair, you're like, oh, whatever.
That happens at other times other than the dinner table too. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
for sure. And really, once you get into it as well, like cooking your own food isn't that big of a change, right? Like we used to eat out all the
No.
time, and I know now I always prepare my own food pretty much anytime I'm going anywhere, right?
Oh, for sure, man. Well, it takes a little bit of planning and maybe a little bit of understanding, how flavors work together. But other than that, it's like go to Bulk Barn and just start buying spices that you know and like, or
Yeah.
whatever store that has spices. You know what I mean? But you just need some spices and some, an internet connection or a good cookbook, I guess. But you know, one of the most frustrating things is going in when I got the munchies and you go into the cupboard and all I have is ingredients. You know what I mean? I just want to eat something now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you want some potato chips? Well, wait an hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right. Well, I can wait 40 minutes for French fries, which are the best French fries you'll ever have. But I mean,
Yeah.
40 minutes is a long time at 9:30 when you're tired.
Yeah, 9:30. Yeah, you
Yeah,
go to bed pretty early, don't you?
yeah, oh yeah,
I have been as well, actually. Like I told you, I got a part-time job there, so I kind of try to start at 7 and get off at 3, right, for the few
yeah,
days I work or whatever. And
yeah. That's what I do for sure.
yeah, so
But
and
yeah, I
obviously
started.
Sorry, I still maintain my morning ritual routine as well, so I'm getting up at 4:30 or 5 to make it to work at 7, right? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's every day for me, right? Like, they say the best time to meditate is dawn, and I'm not gonna jump into things half-assedly if I'm gonna wake up early for work. I'll fucking wake up early to try to better myself, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'll admit, like, I'm kind of slow to start certain things, or I've now understood that I can be in the past slow to start things and slow to and never to finish them a lot of the time, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I'm trying to just, like, give myself a kick in the pants these days and get my shit together. But yeah, man, like, wake up 4:58, or maybe like, hey, I just woke up right before my alarm went off. It's 4:56. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
I just go outside and sit, and you just quiet your mind and allow things to come to you if you can, and
Yeah.
start your day there. And honestly, man, like, I'm less tired all day, and I just have a clearer mind, more focus. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can remember things way better. Like, I'm remembering names of things that I've seen, weeks and weeks ago. Like, I was like, oh, should we put some of that wakame in the Asian dish I'm preparing? And it was like some type of seaweed, and I pull it out, and it actually was wakame. I hadn't seen for 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, changing to the plant-based diet helped a lot with that too, right?
Definitely.
And I don't know about, like, stopping eating gluten and all that, as far as helping me, because it's kind of difficult to pinpoint any effects or benefits that we're having on any one thing. But at the same time, like, I forget who is it said, just look at what everyone else is doing and don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, if wheat is such a massive part of the world's diet, it's tough for me to think that it hasn't been totally messed with to the point of almost not being good for you, like almost everything else that's mainstream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look at a ginger ale. Like, that used to be a delicious, soothing thing that you drank when you were sick, and it would actually help your stomach. And now it's sugar and chemicals and colors and all sorts of crap. You know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
good for you,
Yeah,
right?
I've actually heard that before the genetically engineered forms of wheat and grains that we have, like if you get back to ancient grains like spelt and stuff like that,
Yeah.
apparently they won't cause a reaction in people with celiac disease. I don't know if that's true. I don't have a gluten sensitivity or anything, so I can't substantiate that. But maybe you
Yeah.
guys are willing to do some experimentation. I know it's at high cost,
Well,
but
they do make a couple of, like, products, like ancient grain type stuff, that doesn't contain wheat or barley
yeah.
or other things that have gluten in them, right? And it says it's gluten free. You know what I mean? Whether or not there's something else in there that Courtney might be sensitive to, I don't know. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
like I
for
was
sure.
saying, like I was saying to her too, like, I mean, you can't just blame the devil for everything or whatever. Like, obviously, if you have an issue like this, your digestive system is pretty sensitive. You know what I mean? So some other things might affect you more harshly than others as well, right? Like, I've read things that say, uh, cauliflower and members of the cabbage family can affect some people worse than others, and, like, eating large amounts of that. Well, I mean, mainly they just say gastrointestinal distress could happen, but like, it's tough to say, and I think a lot of it is due to the modern food growing practices, right? Or years and years of crossbreeding and whatnot of the plants, so that you get bigger, bulkier plants and stuff like this. Whether it's through genetic modification or not, it still affects the plant itself, And so, I mean, this is the first year I'm doing it, but having a backyard garden is pretty awesome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, I concur with that. We did it like a little shitty one last year, but this year we still only planted a few things, but we've been perpetually harvesting peas, and
yeah,
we only have two chard plants and one kale plant, and that's almost enough for a
yeah.
family of three. Well, it's growing anyway,
Oh,
right?
totally, man.
Unfortunately, our growing season's only 5 months here, but
Yeah.
yeah, and for that reason, I think I'm gonna do some indoor chard garden kale and just have that, even if you do it like hydroponically or something like that, it would be so
Yeah.
worth it. And it's so minimal, right?
Oh yeah.
Start up a little LED light or something, and you could have a couple cannabis plants and a few, kale plants or something, and you'd be set all winter. So,
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, I mean, I I was really excited to have a garden this year, and I was disappointed because we ended up moving in April, and so
yeah.
March you're supposed to start your tomato, or February, March you're supposed to start your tomatoes and stuff from seed indoors. So I didn't get to do that, and I was all, and oh, the nursery center has plants for sale, I said, and they're all non-GMO. Courtney, let's go, and
Yeah.
tomato plants are like 4 for $1 and stuff like
Wow.
this, right? And they're all awesome looking plants. So I grabbed like a bunch of tomato plants, cucumber plants, zucchini plants, all sorts of different stuff that I wanted to grow but couldn't because I didn't have the time to start them from seeds. And then I get them all home and I'm like, oh yeah, it's cold out still. I should probably start doing some research on how to fucking give these things what they need. So, unfortunately, a lot of the seedlings I had kind of really got stressed out before I even got them outside, right? Like I have no cucumber. One of my melon plants that I bought at that time made it, and it is still only like that big. And like to put that in contrast, I went later and grabbed a melon plant from Norm, a man I used to buy vegetables off there last year, and it's now like 4 feet long, vine,
Wow.
yellow flowers and stuff. It's doing good. So, but I don't know. I was gonna ask your opinion on it too. Like, I got these lights from home or hardware store, whatever it was, and uh, they're like floodlights, but they're like tinted red and blue because it's supposed to be like infrared and ultraviolet, like dual purpose. I don't know if those are supposed to be better or if it's like some sort of hack, but they're on sale, which is why I got them, right? And they plugged into uh, my light cord, my work light cord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I set up this makeshift grow tent, and on my lights were my two bulbs were over, 40 seedlings or something. Some of them I grew from seed, some of them I bought, and they're, the lights were, almost 1.5 feet above the plants. So I'm thinking maybe the light was too far away or something, or
Well, it's how many watts is that light?
oh, I couldn't even tell you offhand,
Is
but
it LED or is it like you said? It's like a floodlight. Were they plant lights or?
yeah, they were growing lights, like it's specifically
Yeah.
for growing, and it said it had the ultraviolet and the infrared so that you can grow them and flower under them and stuff like that with
Yeah.
the same bulb, right? But what ended up happening is nothing really grew. It all stayed the same size. My little tiny 2-inch pepper plants flowered. And like my little seedlings were just all spindly and thin, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Were
So
you just giving them 12 and 12 light or what were you doing?
well, yeah, I was trying to give them 12 and 12,
Yeah,
and
so you should have just gave them like 24 hours light or,
oh,
even 18 light. When the light hours get shorter, that'll signal to the plants some plants anyway, that it's time to flower and stuff, cannabis especially.
okay,
I don't know if
crazy.
peppers work that way, but I know extreme weather and stuff and shock can cause them to do weird things like that. But
Yeah,
if you have things stretching and going into flower way earlier than they should, they're probably like, oh shit, the summer's ending, right? So,
yeah, totally. That
yeah,
makes sense for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I figured it was something like that, and I want to start doing some more growing inside before the summer's over because
Yeah.
you can move a lot of stuff indoors, like your parsley and stuff like that, and then spring comes around and you have a giant mane of parsley to throw in the garden or whatever, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But,
Yeah, we did all right on our transplanting, but then we put them in the garden during that drought season, and I didn't water them every day, so a lot of them went into some pretty deep shock and
yeah,
whatnot. But yeah, our pumpkin plant is huge, dude. It's like
awesome.
taking over the whole garden. I had to top it and stuff. It's like out on the lawn now, and you know.
Yeah, yeah, I love squashes, man. They're my favorite plant to grow because I
Oh,
just sit and watch them grow. Like
what was it that you sent me a picture of?
that was a golden zucchini. Yeah, that's Courtney's arm. It's as big as her arm, but well, I mean, like I was saying to
That's
Courtney, I was like, what James doesn't,
that big.
this I can grab it.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean, for everyone that doesn't know me, keep in mind I'm like a pretty big guy, and this is,
Yeah.
that's a 12 or 13-inch zucchini, and this one came off the same plant, and they're pretty close to the same size.
Yeah.
But yeah, zucchinis is something that it's called a summer squash because it's one of the only squash you can eat in the summertime, right? Like this thing, if I left it on there, dude, I don't even know how big it would get. They pick them when they're underripe, and I guess like even smaller, like 6-inch ones are supposed to be like the best. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
really?
Yeah, they pick them when they're underripe because I guess when they're older they get harder skinned and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. Last year I was eating somewhere like this big around, and you fry it up in the pan, and then you like put a cracked egg on it with a slice of tomato and some avocado or something like that. You know what I mean? Using it for my English muffin at breakfast time and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
nice.
But yeah, man, those
Yeah.
squash plants are awesome. I'm gonna do a lot more squash next year. Um, yeah, I mean, apparently my landlord hates lawns and he loves gardens, so I'm hoping to rip up some of his lawn and put in like 2 more giant garden boxes or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't do any greens this year, did you?
Well, I mean, a lot of what I planted in and tried to start indoors was like my spinach and my kale and my romaine, and I had some basil and some coriander, and almost none of that made it. By the time it was time to put things like that outside, they weren't the size they should have been, and some of them were already dead when I went to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I was learning a lot about like watering from beneath and stuff like that with the seedling pods instead of going from the top. And like I was putting too much water in the trays and stuff, so they were like starting to mold. Some of them there was tiny little mushrooms growing. You know what I mean? Well, and whatever. It's the old me would just get frustrated and give up, but realizing that every shortfall is just a lesson you've learned is something that's really really handy to take with you in life. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
all
yeah.
right, well, this is fucked. The truck just broke down. It's like, all right, well, what can I learn from this? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's nothing, but sometimes it's something good, right?
Yeah, exactly. At the very least, you learn to control your emotions, right? So,
Yeah, well, and as soon as I decided to start learning about working on cars, I started to say, you know what, like I just can't even get mad because I don't understand enough about this to get mad. You
yeah.
know what I
Well, and
mean? Like,
also you just decided to manifest a way for yourself to start learning about cars.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what, man, I am learning a lot, and by the time all this is through, I'll have a pretty awesome ride. So it is worth it. You know what I mean? Not to mention like that's a skill you can carry with you anywhere. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I had to do the brakes on the new vehicle I bought because my truck isn't running, and the new vehicle I bought, when I bought it, he's like, nothing's wrong, everything works, but you need to get your brakes done. And like when I took it for the test drive, it was like like
Oh,
even when I
wow.
wasn't hitting the brakes, it was so
Yeah.
bad, right? So I drove 4 or 5,000 k after that, and because you spend 3 grand on your truck or whatever, and your money's all gone, so you're trying to fucking wait. And we drove to get a new fridge because well, I mean, we didn't really need to do that at that time, but I had an awesome deal. I didn't really want to pass up, so we went to get a fridge, and we're coming back from a half hour drive, and I hit the brakes, and it sounds like a jet's flying overhead. And so
Wow.
yeah, so I just went to the parts store and bought some brakes and spent most of my money and did them in the driveway. But it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome feeling to not only do it successfully first try, but have it. Oh, it's only 2 hour and a half. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it's
Yeah.
good time too. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to do a few things like that on my Explorer there too.
Yeah, brakes are easy, man. Everybody says they're easy, and you're like, well, but no, they're really easy. It's like 2 bolts. What I would recommend is just get some penetrating lube, because then you can just I got this stuff. It's called sea foam, and it's foamy, so it doesn't just drip everywhere and make it. Well, it'll still make a mess, but less of one.
Yeah.
And like what I did is I took a wheel off, sprayed those 2 bolts that hold the caliper on, and then and then you go to the other tire. You leave the one jacked up, and then you go undo the other tire. Let the penetrating lube do its thing before you even start. And then by the time you get the other tire off and the bolts sprayed, you go back over, and it's been 10 minutes. I mean, maybe give it another squirt, but it should be a lot easier to loosen those.
Good tip.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, nutrition and everything like that obviously is a huge part of everyone's life. Every day you kind of eat and sleep and drink. You know what I mean? So it's a big part of your life. And when you cook everything for yourself and lose the ability to just grab something on the go, you know what I mean? Like, there's no waking up feeling lazy and I just grab lunch at McDick's. You know what I mean? Like, I have to, like, on Friday night, it's the weekend. I don't need to cook necessarily because I don't need lunch for work. But guess what? Monday's coming and I need lunch, and I do drywall, so I need a lot of lunch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't eat much for breakfast, but when I get to work, there's usually one or two 4-cup containers that are usually half to full of food, like usually rice with all sorts of veggies and protein, whether it's tofu or beans or tempeh or whatever. And so I have two of those, one for first break, one for second break. Then I might have some homemade cookies and some coffee. So that takes a lot of work, you know what I mean? Maybe some veggies and dip. That's a little easier. But yeah, dude, my weekend starts with me cooking a giant lunch or at least a giant dinner on Saturday, and making sure I have at least 2 dishes of leftovers from that. And then same thing with Sunday. And so when Monday rolls around, I have 4 dishes waiting in the fridge for me.
Yeah.
Because I take 2 of those every day, right?
Wow.
And so every night of the week now, I'm making sure I have enough leftovers to have 2 containers or 1 or 2 containers of food, and I just carry things over to the next week. And but oh, John, you sometimes, don't you make too much food? You know what I mean? Like, is something sitting in your fridge from last weekend still? Yeah, there is. But you know what? There's no milk in it and there's no meat in it, and it doesn't go bad like things do.
Well,
Not
even if it does, you just dump the whole thing in your compost pile.
Oh, totally. That's right, for sure, man. But like, it takes a while. And I mean, people don't really a lot of the time understand why things go bad to begin with. It's because there's something else eating your food for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same when you ferment your food. Only those bacteria are good for you. So what's happening? Your chili sat in the fridge too long, and some bacteria are going to town on it. But if you don't have those bacteria present in your fridge from your raw chicken breast sitting on a plate in there or whatever, then a lot of those really harmful bacteria aren't even as present.
Yeah,
anyway,
well, a lot of that cross-contamination can occur at the grocery store as well.
Totally, right.
Definitely a factor. And then also when you're buying your food from the grocery store, a lot of it isn't as fresh as you think. You'd mentioned earlier that they harvest things that before they're ripe. So, you might be getting a tomato that's half ripe, but it still could have been picked 2 months ago. You know what I mean?
That's exactly the case. Courtney's dad he was a long haul truck driver. And so fruits and vegetables, a lot of them anyways, emit something called ethylene.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering the name correctly. And it's just a naturally occurring gas. And so if that fruit or vegetable is covered, then the gas will grow and it will accumulate and it will ripen it. That gas is what ripens your fruit. Okay, so when your fruit's growing on the plant, I think that the plant just kind of keeps ripening it for it. But when you have something like tomatoes, Courtney's dad was saying they'll pick tomatoes. They're all green. They go onto the truck and they're pumping it full of this gas. So they're ripening en route. And obviously the plants make a lot of this gas on their own, or the fruits, I should say. They make a lot of this gas on their own too. So he said, you drive for 5 hours, then you have to stop and you have to air it out. Otherwise, everything is going to be rotten by the time you get there, right?
Wow.
But yeah, so the grocery store is like, it's a great place to go get everything in one go, but it's probably the worst place to get anything. You know what I mean? Like, there's some great stuff at the grocery store these days. You know what I mean? I do get a lot of my food there, obviously. Everybody does, or most people get all of their food from the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, living in the area we live in now, at least in the Okanagan, there's so much local economy for that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, in my neighborhood that I live in right now, there's nothing that I could walk to, but at the same time, I could walk an hour an hour or two to get to some places. It's a 5 minute, 10 minute drive, and there's free range chicken, eggs, and all sorts of fruit, whatever you could want, really, vegetables and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Obviously, the good growing climate has a lot to do with that.
sure.
But
Yeah,
but
we're
in every area that people live in, there's things you can take advantage of too, right? Like
for
you don't
sure.
just have to rely on other people too. I mean, one thing I've been doing a lot of is trying to learn a little bit about nature around you and what you could eat and stuff like this. And I've learned a lot of it isn't too palatable, but it's good to know that it's there if I need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And there's this big, kind of, oh, no, you shouldn't eat anything from the forest. What if it's poisonous? You know
yeah,
what I mean? And yeah, well, yes, just don't eat it if you don't know what it is. For sure, there's some things that could really mess you up. Like I don't recommend eating, some poison ivy or something like that. That would probably feel pretty awful, But a lot of things that grow around you are edible. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for
And like,
sure.
I mean, most people know even, like dandelions are totally edible. You know what I mean? And there's like wild onions that grow around, wild asparagus, and like guaranteed you've seen these plants before and you just don't even know what they are, right?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
when I'm growing up, it's just, oh, that one has a blue flower.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah, no, I think that's part of a way of, disconnecting us from nature, number one, and also obviously taking control of the food supply. There's a lot of propaganda out there to discourage people from hunting wild animals as well. Like they're somehow more at risk for disease than these factory farmed animals, which is
yeah.
totally fucking ridiculous, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
But yeah, oh yeah, your area is really good. We're reaping the benefits. Actually, I just went and picked up some food at the produce store today, and that H&W, right, produce
Oh, yeah.
wholesaler. So yeah, it's a great place to get a fantastic deal on food. Like we spent $80, and I got a case. Probably 24 inches by a foot by 3 feet, a huge box of food, a whole case of mushrooms. It's like 2.2 kilograms, 5 pounds of mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And we got, I think it was a kilogram of blueberries. And we spent $80, man. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
crazy.
So, eating healthy, most people think it costs more to eat healthy. I would say it costs more to eat healthy and organic and non-GMO if you're buying processed food and meat. Then fuck, it's outrageous, man. Like,
Oh, yeah,
man, if
totally.
you go
Well,
go to the grocery store and fill your cart with produce first, even if buy all organic, all non-GMO food, and then hit up a few processed things and a couple meat items, and you'll double your grocery bill in like a few steps, right?
oh,
So,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure, man. I mean, you can go and get one steak is $20
yeah,
depending on the cut you want. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But yeah, man. I mean, also if you decide, hey, I really care about my body and I'm actually switching to a vegan diet partly for the health benefits, then maybe you should also, I mean, people in general, obviously not you, but maybe you should also look into eating more holistically. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, yeah, man, if you want to have a fucking vegan hamburger patty that's pre-made at the store, you're gonna be paying some big bucks for it, dude. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
and
like,
it's not that good,
no,
unfortunately.
it's not, man. Like I made some pretty awesome burger patties, and I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I had some gastrointestinal distress after. But I made it similarly to like falafel. So I didn't cook my black beans. I
Yeah,
just ground them up with like mushrooms and onions and like rosemary from my garden and all sorts of good spices and garlic and stuff. And yeah, they were real awesome, man. They were, like falafel type texture, but with the mushrooms, it makes it juicy. You know what I mean? So they were really, really good.
nice.
And yeah, man, it was almost free because like how much are beans really? You get a 2 kilogram bag of dried beans. It's like $5 to $10 depending on the variety, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
and yeah, man, things are only expensive if you can't break out of that crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, dude, you know how much I'd love to just fucking pick up a sandwich and eat it from the store, like for convenience sake, but every other part of it is gross, like when you decide to start eating good and actually using, real ingredients and stuff like that, your taste buds change and you don't desire the same crap. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
And at the same time, a lot of the flavor in any dish you make, whether it be plant based or animal based, it's in the seasoning, right? So when you
Yeah,
make a
that's right.
dish like butter chicken, an Indian dish for those of you that don't know, and you make, say, butter chickpeas or butter tofu, you're still getting that just explosion of Indian spices and flavor. And really, I think
Yeah,
it comes down to a texture thing for a lot of people, but it's like, suck it up, man. Be an adult. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
totally, man. Life changes,
yeah,
you know?
eating healthy might be slightly different than eating unhealthy.
Yeah.
Just come to terms with it, right?
Yeah, oh man, I don't know. I've had some pretty awesome vegan dishes that taste really, really similar. Like, I mean, look at that buffalo dip I made you guys. I mean,
Yeah,
that is a little bit of a tweaked version of the recipe I sent you. Like when I made it for you, there was parsley and stuff in it instead of dill, right? So
yeah,
it
for sure.
just goes to show you though, man, like you eat something like that, oh man, it tastes so good and creamy, and it's just like so reminiscent of some like spicy chicken buffalo dip. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you're full after and you feel good. You know, you don't feel like crap. You know, oh, you want to just lay on the couch and watch a movie, you know, and it's
Yeah.
just like the food is almost designed to make you a slave. You know what I
Oh, for
mean? Like,
sure. Yeah.
it's awful,
Well,
man.
those really calorically dense and nutrient depleted diets, they cause that, right? Because you're burning energy to process
Yeah.
this food and you're not getting all the vitamins and aminos and proteins that you need to reassemble all the parts that you're putting work on, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
people don't think that's happening to them, but all you have to do is take a look at anybody in our society. Take a look at somebody who's a teenager. Take a look at somebody who's 25, 35, 45,
Yeah.
55, and you can see how fast the diet has an effect on you. And regardless of what your lifestyle is, diet is the main influencing factor on every single person's life, right?
Oh, for sure,
So,
man. It's pretty naive to think that your body could possibly be any better than what you put into it. You know what
yeah,
I mean? At least in a physical sense, you know.
yeah,
But like, yeah, I don't really want to say any names, but I'm talking to somebody, and you know, that well, I heard about somebody, and they're like, oh, you know, I have high blood sugar. You know, the doctor says soon I'll be diabetic, and I have high blood cholesterol. You know, and I just, you know, I'm looking for some way that I can feel better, you know, and I'm like, well, fuck, at what point do you stop searching around aimlessly for some pill you can pop or some fucking diet you can do really quickly and look in the mirror and understand that, hey, I've been doing this to myself. Oh, your blood sugar is high. You know how your blood gets sugar? By your body processing it in your stomach. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
eat
exactly.
the sugar, it goes in your blood. You eat the fat, it goes in your blood, and obviously all those things, your blood goes everywhere. So
Yeah.
you know, you
Well,
got
it's
to
a
make.
little bit more complex like that. Like when you process certain carbohydrates in a certain way, it gets converted into sugars instantly and stuff too.
Well, that's
But
right.
it is that simple on that level as well. Like if you consume a lot of sugar, yes, sugar's entering your blood for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you know, yeah, your body, you know, like plants, we're fueled by sugar. So
Yeah.
you eat sugar, your body processes it. You eat something like fat, it's really easy to burn like sugar, so your body will process that really quickly too and turn it into sugar. And then you
Yeah.
get things like carbohydrates are next, and they're also really easy and quick to process, and they get turned to sugar by your body. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
well, what did I have for breakfast today? Oh, I stopped at Timmy's, grabbed a double double there with a pack of Timbits, and I had a hash brown deep fried or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, well, and geez, man, like, just, you know, start exercising and stop eating most of the things you crave.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say that too because when I first gave up animal products, there was a lot of things where I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll never have a good burger again. I'll never have good pizza again. I'll never have a good Caesar again.
Yeah,
Those are all
totally.
lies, and I've enjoyed all of those things since
That's
then.
true.
And I'm really glad that I've, pushed into new bounds. And again, you've influenced me in a lot of those ways because you've had to hack so many things, even on the gluten-free end,
Oh
right?
yeah, totally, man.
And
Talking about burgers, I mean, there's these things, and I'm not sure if What I'm describing is the correct part of the recipe, but I'm thinking they're called patacones, and it's like Cuban or Dominican food, and it's plantain, and you depending on the size, like usually plantains are way bigger than bananas, right? So you
Yeah.
cut it into thirds, and you fry that up till it's nice and crispy, and then you take it out of the pan and you smash it with a plate until it's squat, and you put it back and fry it up again until it's really crispy. And there's your hamburger bun, man. And
Wow.
it's this soft, fluffy bun. I mean, it's not so good left over because it is kind of greasy, but hey, man,
Yeah.
if you're using the right oils, it's not as bad for you to get a little bit of grease in your diet. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And that's another thing people need to look into. I actually got into that a little bit in one of my past videos on health and nutrition. Oil smoke points is a major factor when you're cooking. Different oils have different smoke points. So, like grapeseed oil and avocado oil, I think, are two of the highest smoke points. So, they're great for frying and deep frying or baking things at 400 degrees, right?
Yeah.
Whereas something like virgin olive oil that has a lower smoke point, you don't want to be deep frying in that. When the oil reaches its smoking point, it becomes substantially less healthy and it starts breaking down and all this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously refined oils are not nearly as good for you. What you want is fresh, virgin, cold pressed oils, right?
Yeah.
From
Closest to the natural source, you know?
That's right, and that's why store bought salad dressings are so bad and stuff as well. They actually make those with the lower grade oils, and a lot of the oils that they use will be like borderline about to go rancid. So they use
Yeah.
them in this flavored sauce where they can cover up the bitter taste of the fucking shitty oil, right? So,
Yeah.
buying yourself the high quality oil and preparing things like salad dressings at homes and stuff at your home, sorry, will go a long way to kind of improving the impact on your health that oil has rather than it being a negative impact, right? So,
Oh, totally, man. I mean, not to mention, like, when you make a dressing at home, it's more flavorful because the ingredients are better, they're fresher. So
yeah,
you don't even eat as much of that oil, which is better for you,
yeah,
as you know, when you use like your peppercorn ranch or whatever it is you decide to buy, right? You end up
yeah.
slathering it all over everything, and it's full of all sorts of crap, not to mention the fat. You know what I mean?
Well, again, when you're not consuming any animal products, your protein sources don't have any fat content really.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
you can pretty much use oil at liberty when you're not consuming animal
Oh yeah,
products or
I
dairy. So.
literally rub it on my body. I mean, coconut oil makes a great moisturizer,
Yeah,
dude. I
I thought
mean,
you were gonna say lube, but whatever. I guess that's another topic.
yeah. Oh no, but the key with coconut oil, man, you rub it on your hands and then you go and you lean on your wall and the wall's shiny for 6 months. Just go outside into the sunlight and this coconut oil just soaks right into your skin. It's
Yeah.
great, man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely good for you. Have you tried my veggie patty recipe, the southwestern one that I make with black eyed peas?
Oh no, man. I think you may have made it for us.
I don't think I did. I think we had something else when you were down or whatever. But yeah, because we were gonna do like lettuce buns, but I don't think we ever ended up doing it. But
Okay.
yeah, I make a patty with with black eyed peas and some oats and
Yep.
onions and there's a bunch of hot sauce in it and stuff
Oh,
and
cool.
it took a little bit of messing around to get the texture right so that it's not exploding out the back of your bun as soon as you
Yeah.
bite into it. But yeah, I've got the texture down pretty good and the flavor's fantastic.
Awesome,
Again,
man.
it's not chewy like ground up meat is,
Yeah.
but you
But that's
fry
not
it.
what it is.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. You fry it until it's crispy and it still tastes fantastic, right? Especially when you get all the other burger toppings on there, like pickles and tomato
oh
and
yeah.
onions and stuff, right? So
Oh man, yeah, and we've been making our own homemade pickles this year. And
nice.
I'll admit, the first batch we made pickled asparagus, way too much vinegar, but like it's like having a sour candy or something like that. Your
uh,
eyes, but oh, great. But yeah, man, I made those burgers with the plantain buns, and I
yeah,
had 3 slices of my homemade pickles from some cucumbers that were grown, like 10 minutes away from my house, kind of thing. And oh man, they're good, dude.
yeah,
Like
for
the
sure.
fresh ingredients and stuff, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
but yeah, I mean, honestly, man, like like you're saying on your show and everything like that, I think that taking care of yourself and eating right is the first step that you need to take if you really want to amount to anything of value. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
of
Like
course.
an actual value, not a cash value. You know,
Yeah.
because unfortunately for us now, everything in this world is done for a buck, which is part of the reason why the fucking food in the I think part of the reason why some of the food in the grocery store is so crappy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get, like you said, the rancid salad dressings and stuff like this. You know, your baby cut carrots, which are all of the nastiest carrots cut down and skinned, and I've heard, even, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I've heard there's like bleach or some sort of chlorine chemical on them to keep them from fucking stinking and stuff like this. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but I mean, what do you think relish is made out of? It's not made out of those awesome cucumbers you're seeing in the produce aisle, right? It's made
That's
out of
right.
the crap that's sitting on the soil and has all the yellow stains from the nitrogen in the earth and stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's true, man, and you that's where you notice it big time, right? Like, don't get me wrong, if you go pick a piece of kale or chard from your garden and eat that, it'll totally change what your perception of fresh is. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, totally.
But if you start making yourself like homemade dressings and sauces and salsas, you realize right away, man, as soon as you take that first bite, the difference in quality, right? Like,
Oh, totally.
especially a salsa or something like that, or a homemade tomato sauce with fresh herbs. Wow,
Oh,
man.
dude,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, well, we make our chickpea flour pizza crust, and I mean, in the wintertime, obviously, with less access to that sort of thing, you'll use the dry herbs. But yeah, I made my own pizza sauce for it, and I just stuck in my little cup blender, the little smoothie cup,
yeah,
put a tomato in there, chopped up, and then just like nutritional yeast, and yeah, some fresh oregano. Man, we've got some oregano growing in our garden. I've never even seen fresh oregano. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And yeah, some fresh oregano and rosemary and thyme, dude. You know, like you don't
Yeah.
even want to eat pizza from Domino's or anything
Oh
like
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got basil and sage going. I think that's oh, and rosemary, or no, basil, sage, and thyme.
that. Time,
And
yeah,
yeah, if
yeah,
you go pick some out of the garden, like a few leaves of each, and hold that in your fist and smell it, man, it's
yeah.
like it's so sweet and aromatic. Like I can't believe how sweet basil is. You know?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Basil is something I really discovered last year. Yeah, man. Like, make yourself some like Thai red curry,
Yeah.
and chop up some fresh basil and put it on top of on your plate.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you bite into that fresh basil and it's just
Oh, I'm
oh,
glad you brought that up because I've totally forgot to be adding basil to my Thai dishes. You know, like that's
yeah.
something I totally forgot about. But yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely gives you that traditional Thai flavor, right? So.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not sure about any how that might taste, but yeah, I mean, my curries taste pretty good. I don't know if I had a Thai person over if they'd think so, but
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying if you go to a traditional Thai restaurant, that'll be, one of the things that they serve with a lot of their dishes.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've only
especially in
ever
like
been to
the.
one Thai restaurant and it was pretty awful, man. I must say,
Oh,
I was
really?
making my own curry.
Oh, yeah. I've had some really good like Thai noodle soups and stuff, and they'll put like a whole big sprig of Thai basil in there with your
Oh,
soup, right?
cool.
And you don't. There's so much of it you don't even eat it with the dish because it just like totally punches it with flavor as soon as you put it in there, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, no doubt,
yeah,
man.
it's awesome.
But yeah, a lot of my basil was bolting and going to seed, so it's big, tall basil flowers on the tops. So
Yeah.
I snipped one of those off and chopped it up with a bunch of the fresh parsley, and I ended up having to thin some of my cabbage plants. So I chopped up one of my cabbage plants and some kale and made a salad with that, dude. And yeah, like that flower from the basil, like holy, that's very, very aromatic and tasty. You know what
Wow.
I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, they say it gets bitter when it bolts, but I haven't noticed a bitterness to
Mm.
it. It's still really sweet.
Yeah, we had a few things bolt during that drought, and like our broccoli plants are 2 feet tall, and they've got a thing of broccoli this tall starting in them. So.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, that's how it starts out, though, man. My broccolis looked like a tiny, like just a fluff ball of broccoli at
Yeah.
first, and then so what I learned with the broccolis too is you get that whole big head in the center, and cut that off nice and clean with a sharp blade. Don't don't kill the plant. Leave the plant. I didn't know this at the time. I just ended up putting mine in the compost and planting a couple of more things to see if I could cheat something else in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, leave the plant, and then everywhere where a leaf comes out, a little tiny piece of broccoli will start to grow, and depending on how long your growing year is, maybe you can even get out a couple of crops of broccoli, right?
Yeah. I
So
wonder if that's where they get like, you can get the packs of like flowerets at the store, and they usually
oh,
have a longer stem on them and a smaller head. Maybe that's
oh yeah,
those.
I've heard those called like broccolicini or something, broccolicini or
Yeah,
something.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
broccolini. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
something
Yeah,
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
it could be a related plant too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
true.
so many different varieties of everything, dude. That's one thing I'm learning too, right? Like, oh, you like broccoli, do you? Well, there's 17 different kinds of broccoli, and you probably only ever tasted one.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I was meant to mention it earlier when I mentioned we bought some produce, but they had a lot of local stuff and tons of stuff from BC just because of the time of year it is. So it
Yeah,
was nice
totally,
to be
man.
able
That's
to
awesome.
take benefit of that. And I got some yellow tomatoes on the vine. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, they're super ripe, so I'm actually going to go turn those into salsa right away here. So, um,
Sweet. Oh,
so to make a fermented salsa, you just leave it on the counter like overnight kind of thing, right?
well, I mean, man, just punch it into Google quick. There's a few recipes, but yeah, like you just got to make sure that there's enough salt. And some
Okay.
people are like, well, weigh it and stuff like this. I mean, I like things salty anyways, so
Yeah.
I just like made a big bowl of salsa like I would, you know. So chop up your tomatoes, everything like that. Add the salt, garlic, everything. Put it into jars, like old pickle jars or something like that. Make sure they're clean, obviously.
Yeah.
So like when I do it, I don't go and boil them because I've noticed when you boil things here, at least the water is so hard because it comes out of the lake that, and they treat it with whatever crappy chemicals, you get like a white film on everything you boil. So I just really clean it good and pour boiling water over it kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then it's clean and it's more or less disinfected. Throw your salsa in that. Leave the lid on loose
Hmm.
and don't seal it, but cover it so that crap doesn't fall in it. And yeah, it's like 2 or 3 days only, and the salsa will actually be fizzy. And you'll notice. I mean, try and avoid adding any vinegars and stuff like that to it because that will hinder your process.
Yeah.
So maybe like lemon juice or lime juice, but it'll actually taste really fizzy and a little more tart. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And yeah, like Courtney and I have made some, and with some hot peppers in it, and it just has such a zip, dude. It's so refreshing on a summer day to have a cool fizzy salsa on your nacho. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds gross,
It
but
sounds ridiculous, yeah, but I
yeah.
know it would probably be delicious for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean something like that. You look at the grocery store and you can see naturally fermented products. There's sauerkraut, like naturally fermented sauerkraut and
Yeah.
pickles. $10 for
Yeah.
a jar of pickles, and there's only six in the thing.
Yeah. No, we just made some sauerkraut, and literally it's a head of cabbage and salt.
And salt, yeah,
And that's the only ingredients, and
a little bit
man,
of elbow grease.
yeah, exactly. So delicious. And like you said, to get like a natural handmade sauerkraut like that or something, you probably wouldn't
Oh
even
yeah.
find it at the grocery store. You'd have to go to the farmer's market and pay like
Or,
$25 a jar for it or
well,
something.
yeah. I mean,
So,
go to one of those like Planet Earth Foods or
yeah,
Whole Food stores, and they got also all those hippie products that are outrageously expensive but really
yeah.
good for you, right? But yeah, like how much is a head of cabbage? You know, like $3 or $4, and you get how many jars of sauerkraut of something like that?
Yeah, I think
So,
you get about a jar from a head. So,
okay,
um,
because like I mean, I've seen some pretty decent heads, this big, and I try to leave a little bit of room in the top so that it's
yeah,
all in liquid,
we
but.
didn't leave enough room on the top of ours, and it was just a loose lid. And every night it would overflow,
Oh,
so we had it on a plate, and it would overflow, and then we'd pack it in and pour the juice back in, and yeah,
yeah,
it didn't contaminate or anything, and it still turned out really awesome. So,
cool,
yeah,
man.
what's awesome about making your own sauerkraut too is you pretty much leave it on the counter until it's as sauerkrauty as you want it, right? And
Yeah,
it'll
totally.
get more fermented tasting and a little bit more pungent. And when it's the way you want it, you just throw it in the fridge and you have sauerkraut, to your taste, right? So,
Oh, and dude, you know what? Like I had kimchi, which is sauerkraut, but you add some ginger and what did I put in it? ginger, and you can put like green onions in it and some radish or something like that, a few spices. But I made it around Christmas time when Mom was down, and then I was eating it the next time I saw her in what was it, May?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it sat on the count. Oh, I made this food. It sat on the counter for 2 weeks, and then I put it in the fridge for 4 months and fucking ate it, and it was awesome. It was better than it ever was, you know. But that's what it is, though, right? You're making your food go good instead of going bad, right? So
Yeah.
you get that other culture situated so that the beneficial culture, I should say, situated in a place that, man, it's so set up. It's in a fortress, dude. Nothing else can really contaminate it after that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly.
But that's why it's important to make sure your ingredients are fresh too, right? Like if you try to ferment a moldy old cabbage head, that mold is already present there. It's already made its own culture. So what you're going to be doing is growing that culture, maybe along with some beneficial bacteria if you're lucky. But
Yeah.
you know,
But to be fair, it's not like a huge issue either. Like I can't even really think of anything off the top of my head that's gone bad on me. Um, Geez. No, I tried to make that ginger bug and
I've had a couple
you know,
that yeah, I've had a couple that went bad on me, but I think the main thing to keep in mind is like, well, did I follow the recipe correctly? You know, did I add enough salt to that? Were my jars clean? You
yeah.
know what I
But
mean?
to be fair, you do a ton of fermentation as well,
Yeah,
right?
we do a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So, it's not like for me, I do it a handful of times. Like I constantly make kombucha, but
Yeah.
yeah, I've never had any kombucha go bad. We've only done sauerkraut like three or four times, but I've never had sauerkraut go bad. Yeah, what else have I done? I think I did a salsa quick, but I only left it like overnight, and we ended up eating it because I made tacos. So,
Oh yeah, sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, so it was just some day old salsa.
yeah, that was still good though.
Yeah, no, I've had a couple of issues, man, but they're few and far between. Like with my kombucha, the only issue I've had was, oh, these mangoes are getting pretty ripe. Better, let's throw them in the kombucha, and then you fucking like, dude, think about it though. Are you gonna chop your really ripe mango up and let it sit around for another week, or are you gonna chop your really ripe mango up and eat it right away because it's
Yeah,
going bad, right? So I made a batch with mangoes that were too ripe, and you crack it open, and it's real fizzy because those non-beneficial bacteria still breathe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So you're like, oh, this stuff's real fizzy. It must be good. You know what I mean? And yeah, you get halfway through the glass, and you're like, I don't know, man. I can kind of it's in the
yeah,
aftertaste. You know?
yeah. Did somebody just fart into my mouth?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, is somebody hanging some musty laundry up that they forgot in the dryer, or you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah,
Uh,
I mean, like aside from that, dude, like it's all really easy. Like people have been making kombucha and sauerkraut for thousands of years in
yeah,
conditions dirtier than we live in now. You
yeah,
know, like picture. I mean, I know there's the possibility that history has been misrepresented to us, but picture, 3,000 years ago, somewhere in China, some guys living in a stone house with a straw roof, making arrows by hand while his tea's fermenting in the corner with a cloth that he made.
yeah.
You know what I mean? With a loom.
Dirt
Right?
floor, and
That's right,
yeah,
dirt floor.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
constantly, there's horses going by in the street, shitting and pissing and stuff like this.
yeah,
Not to mention, like, well, I mean, but that's the thing too, right? Like, was it really like that? Oh, can you hear me?
yeah. I can hear you.
Okay, it says my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a glitch on you there, but it's been pretty good throughout the whole
Okay,
conversation. Aside from that, so yeah,
cool. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, like that's the thing too. I always like to picture these conditions in the past where it was much harder than it is now and stuff like that. But I feel like maybe that's been misrepresented to us, at least a little bit.
yeah,
I think that it hasn't been dawn of time till now scenario, and we've just been getting better. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like the seasons and the day even have a sunrise and a sunset, and the seasons change. Like
hmm,
there's just rises and falls in every single aspect of nature, at least in this point of the world. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Maybe
for
that
sure.
wasn't always so, but but it is now, right?
Well,
So
I like the work of John Anthony West, the Magical Egypt series and stuff.
okay.
Have you looked into that at all,
I
or?
watched a couple of those. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't. I think we just kind of ended up going in another direction, not really
yeah,
consciously. Just
for
started
sure.
looking at other stuff. You know what I mean? But we
Yeah,
watched like 4 or 5 of those.
yeah, I find him he's really palatable, so it's good for the average person to kind of watch. He's easy to listen to, and he presents his information in a way to give it credibility in a mainstream way, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it sounds like it would be something you'd see on the History Channel or Discovery Channel
exactly,
type
you're
show.
right.
It's really, really watchable.
Oh, yeah, and it's all well done. It's meticulously documented with math and science, behind it. But there he's a huge proponent of the cyclical history theory, and I definitely have to agree that at the very least, there is a lot of technology that we have, had no idea existed back then, and maybe they weren't advanced in the ways that we are, though. Maybe they didn't have computers and automobiles that burned gasoline, but they were able to build structures like the pyramids and things that we
Yeah.
couldn't even achieve realistically today. And not only that, that was the standard for these societies.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, 10,000 years ago or however long ago it actually was. Yeah, look at all around the world, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. So
Monolithic structures.
that's right. So they definitely had some advanced knowledge of something, whether or not that was technological or purely spiritual,
Yeah.
mental, energy control technology. Who knows what we're dealing with, right? But
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, if you think about like your hand and how your hand is made out of atoms and those atoms are largely nothing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like everything is actually mostly nothing. And
yeah,
so if you can, I think a lot of it probably was a spiritual aspect or something like that, and in that Gospel of the Holy 12 book or whatever, it's just straight up says, like, yeah, I mean, God is everywhere because you're living in God, and God is a person that talks to other people and he has a life. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And like, whoa, yeah, that'd be crazy. Hey, let's picture this for a second. Let's look at all the cells in your body as individual people with jobs and lives and stuff like this. Would you want your cells to be feasting on each other? Probably not. You know what I mean? You might want your cells to be working together to try to make your body a better place,
yeah, yeah.
and that's, hey man, if that's the way it is on the world that we live on, maybe we should all fucking reevaluate what we're doing. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, it's the law of correspondence, and yeah, that's definitely lost on our society. And I think that that's one of the main purposes of the physical realm is to allow us to develop an understanding of the higher realms through the easily understandable physical realm.
Mm-hmm.
If you can break any complex concept down to a physical analogy, it almost instantaneously becomes easy to understand, right?
Yeah,
So,
no doubt. Yeah,
um,
which is like the whole first half of that book I was just mentioning
that's
is
right.
physical representations of what he's trying to teach. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And fuck, is it easy to understand?
Yeah, well, and that's a great read to bring up. Actually, I'll mention it again: the Gospel of the Holy 12, which is realistically an alternative perspective on the ministry of Christ. And in this book, it's actually very relevant to our conversation today because one of the founding pillars of his ministry is veganism or vegetarianism, and there's several stories where he releases animals and tries to teach people lessons about not eating flesh. There's the story about the whole sacrament and the sorry, what's it called, the Eucharist or something like that, the drinking of wine and eating of flesh of
Oh
Jesus.
yeah.
He actually meant it in a totally different light, and when you read it about it in this book, he's actually pretty much saying, well, my body is made out of bread and wine.
Yeah.
So when you drink and eat these things, you're eating and drinking what my body is made out of.
Yeah,
He didn't want
yeah,
people to turn this into some sort of cannibalistic ritual
that's
to be
right.
fucking carried on for thousands of years in his name, you know?
That's
So,
a really hilarious scene too, because you can just picture them sitting around. But sir, like, you want us to tell people to eat your blood or eat your body and drink your blood? And he's
yeah.
like, no, dude, that's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't even
saying,
eat animals. Come on.
yeah, this is what I eat, and it fuels and builds my body. So this is my body. This is what I drink, and it
That's
fuels and
right.
builds my blood. So this is my blood, and that's what you need to partake of.
Yeah.
Whole, delicious, grown foods that didn't suffer to nourish you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And you know what's, I really had an epiphany when I got towards the end of that book. And if you take all the mysticism out of it and just get down to the brass tacks of his ministry and look at the laws that he lays out, it's really only about one thing: health. Every
Yeah,
fucking single law, you know, even if you look at to take one day off and rest to keep the Sabbath day
yeah,
holy, that's to help your body to rest and regenerate, to help you break away from the monotony of all the labor that you have to do. Even if you're not
yeah.
working a job and you're producing all your own food and doing gardening, you need time to rest and recuperate, right? So even a law like that, if you take all the religious propaganda and dogma that's been attached to all this fucking bullshit away, you really just get down to a message of health. And
That's right.
every single law is about physical, mental, or spiritual health, right?
Well, and I mean, also, I think it's important to remember too. It's about love, right? Like,
For sure.
love is health, and health is love. Because when you love yourself, you want yourself to be healthy,
That's right.
and when you love the people and the things around you, you want them to be healthy too.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing I do kind of realize with not eating meat, if you do look at it, with the amount of fermented foods and stuff like that that I eat, I probably consume more organisms now than I ever did. You know what I mean? But I think the key
Yeah.
difference is that those organisms are still alive inside me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not suffering. They're living a full life inside of me. And actually, it's a symbiotic relationship where I give them everything they need and they give me everything I need. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because, some people don't realize that that's what's eating your food is the little creepy crawlies that live inside of you, right?
Yeah,
And
well, and I'm glad you brought that up because some people use that as a point of debate in whether or not to eat a plant-based diet. And it's like, oh, well, you're eating everything, living things all the time anyway, you know, like where do you draw the
yeah,
line, right? Would you eat
how
an
about
insect?
eyelashes?
Yeah.
Or just eyeballs. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue them.
Well, you know, that's because people don't understand the hierarchy of manifested consciousness in our realm.
Yeah,
And there's a book that I'm in the process of studying, the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, and it touches on this. Well, it actually goes into it very, very deeply. And upon reading this, you do develop an understanding of the types of life that exist on our planet and how they are actually classified. And again, though, like you said, the whole thing just comes down to love, right? When you're intentionally killing a being unnecessarily,
unnecessarily.
especially to consume its flesh, its energy. That's
Well,
where
and
we're,
it's like a gluttonous act of consumption of flesh too, right? Like, fuck, man, Wing Wednesday.
yeah,
That is fucking countless lives. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And I'd love Wing Wednesday when I
oh
when I
yeah,
eat that sort of thing, right? Like,
yeah,
fucking chicken wings are delicious, dude. But let's look at this objectively. Maybe how about everybody here? Hey, three or four of us can share one fucking chicken.
yeah, yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. Oh yeah, you can eat 20, 40 wings, no problem, and then you know that's 10, 20 chickens going down for that, and you
It's
know,
it's a weird, gluttonous, ritualistic type act too. You know what I mean? Like, you've stolen their freedom because a bird's wings are their freedom. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if it just seems weird to me. I've always looked up to birds for their freedom, or in regards to their freedom, rather. Like, I was just sitting on and yesterday I had a chance to actually go and sit on a nice cliffside and meditate for a little bit while Courtney was at her appointment or whatever.
awesome.
And it was super windy, dude, and I'm like sitting on the edge of a cliff, and 50 feet below me is some ground, and further below that is the lake, and the wind is ripping up the lake and just almost elevating me like a bird. I feel, you know what I mean? But yeah, the birds are just wings open, flying around me, not a sound other than the wind. You just see a giant bald eagle just float by, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so effortless and free, you know what I mean? And it's just something that I really admire. I mean, not that. I mean, that's an argument that you could make to somebody about not eating chicken wings, but
Well, again, right? Um, intent comes into play here, and again, we do live in a society where we don't require this. We literally have anything we could desire available to us at the grocery store, right?
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like you brought up the fact that we're actually enslaving these beings, and they're ritualistically slaughtered in pretty much a bloodletting ritual on a mass scale,
Oh
which
yeah,
is definitely affecting the energy field of the planet, right? And yeah,
yeah, for sure. Just we're all energy. So if you're killing us, a bunch of us, then obviously it affects the energy, right? I
that's
mean,
right.
it's no complex thing. It sounds really complex, but people just look at it like simply. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and look at it this way too. If it's a capacity of consciousness equivalent, we'll call it a capacity of consciousness
Yeah,
equivalent.
yeah.
Maybe
Each chicken is
animals,
worth
yeah,
this
they're
much
less conscious
consciousness.
than us, but you eat hundreds of animals a year, right? So,
Well, and
is
the
that
average person that you talk to, it's like, oh, where are you? You know, and it's like, well, what do you mean? I'm right here. It's like, no, but I mean, like, yeah, like, where are you in your body? Okay. And they're like, well, I'm in my brain. Okay. So by that logic, the smarter you are, the more conscious you are, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's agree that the smarter you are, the more conscious you are. All right, let's just eat the dumb animals. Well, what do we eat? You know what I mean? Mostly chicken, pork, and beef.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, but like chickens are certainly intelligent beings. They know when you're coming, and they recognize you from somebody that they've never met before, and they know that, hey, this guy brings the food around. Oh yeah, I'm coming. You know what I mean? And like pigs are supposed to be as smart as dogs,
Yeah.
and dogs are supposed to be as smart as what, 6 year olds it was or something
Yeah.
like that.
Something like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, hey, Timmy's not doing too good in kindergarten. You want to have a fucking kid roast or whatever? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I was talking to Courtney, and like I'm pretty sure I'm really allergic to dog fur and stuff like that. Like I'm almost considering getting a fucking pig off somebody for $30 and letting that thing live its life out really happily as my pet.
Yeah.
Train it, well, not pet, pet, yeah, buddy. You know what I mean? I'll train him to respond to commands in an intelligent way like a dog. You know what I mean? I think that would probably speak to a lot of people when they come over to my house, and my pig comes up and waves his naked butt around and says hello and shakes your hand and shit. You know what I
Oh
mean?
man, I just picture you with like one of those huge 1,200-pound hogs that they have for meat production.
Slap a saddle on her and you're good to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring all your kids over. She can act as the wet nurse.
Oh man, holy. Well, I guess why not? I mean, it's just another tit to suckle at, I guess,
Oh
right?
yeah. Well,
Holy.
we drink the cow's milk, but that's going too far, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had that same conversation today. I was talking to this guy, Mike, at work, and I was bringing my partner some kombucha because I just fucking give it to people, right? And I was like, oh, hey, man, you guys ever tried kombucha before? He's like, oh, no, man, what is that? Oh, here, you should try it. He's like, oh, no, I just drink coffee and water and a little bit of milk at night. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, not me, man. I just drink breast milk or whatever. He's like, oh, that's so sick. I was like,
Uh,
yeah, but drinking that cow's tits milk is less gross.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I don't know, man. The cows, like, I think all animals are really, really beautiful, but the cows that I drive by in the field are pretty nasty. Like the white one has some poopy bum. That's all I'm saying. Right. So I don't know. I'd
Yeah,
suckle my mom's tit at an appropriate time in life before I fucking would do something like that. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
for sure.
I mean, I think neither me or my mom would like me to start taking that up again. But
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of cut it off there, man.
Alrighty.
We're kind of coming up to an hour and a half here, so
Oh, crazy.
yeah. One thing I did want to bring up is we had mentioned a couple recipes earlier. I have a hand in a website, truecanadian.ca. For all you Canadians out there. And actually, John has submitted that buffalo dip recipe that he was talking about to the website. So that's on there. And that website actually has a bunch of awesome plant based vegan dishes as well. So if you're looking for some ideas, feel free to check that out. I'm sure you'll find more of John's recipes there in the future as well.
Yeah, I'm
So
actually going to send you guys. I already have some pictures taken for those plantain burger bun burgers.
nice.
So yeah, every recipe I send you obviously is gluten free, but I mean, use your imagination. You can change it to have gluten in it if you really want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sweet. And then, yeah, once again, my website is cognitiveconcurrence.com. You can head there to check out all of the work I put out, all of the past cognitive conversations, episodes of my video show Cognitive Concurrence, as well as articles that I post periodically. I also have a video links page up there, which has tons of links to researchers other than myself, sorry, that can get you pointed into some alternative directions and point you towards some of the information that I've used to, improve my life over the years. And I know John's used a bunch of that information himself as well. And thanks again for coming on, bro. I want to thank you for the positive influence you've been on us as far as diet and everything goes.
Oh,
And
awesome! Thanks, man. I mean, I've always looked at you as a positive influence on my life, certainly in like the last 10 years or whatever. So it's nice to feel the reciprocation. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, one hand washes the other, and I think we all have something that we can learn from each other, and everybody has something to offer. And, just all the more reason that we really need to start building on ground community
Yeah,
with
for
people
sure.
around us, right? So, yeah, man,
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
no,
Oh, sorry, go
that's
ahead.
really really good points made about community in your past in your few videos there. I really like made me think about things a little differently. You know what I mean? Like he was saying about fortresses and stuff like that in Europe in medieval times. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit, man. 50 guys show up and try to take your stuff. Community's pretty important, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, man, yeah, I'll come on again if you'll have me anytime.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Next time I have you, we'll probably go for a different topic or whatever. But yeah, we'll have you on again. Thanks a lot for the great conversation.
yeah, thanks, man. I'll
Okay,
talk to you soon.
take care.
Yeah.
We chase them all away. Yeah,